Okay. A very good morning, a very good afternoon, or a very good evening to all the viewers who are now joining us live online. My name is Nishit Kotak. I'm here with the team from Hindu Academy. And if you are new to the broadcast, then welcome. A global namaste to you all. Let me just explain the format of this call. We normally run for about 1 hour. We start off with a focus topic, which today is the interesting one. I will share what it is very shortly. After we play the focus topic video, we will do a little bit of a question and answer session related to that focus topic. And once we've done that, we will then open up for general questions and answers on Hinduism. So how can you participate? Well, simple. You can make sure that you like, share, subscribe. Make sure that you share this live stream with your friends and family members so they can join in on the conversation and ask their questions on Hinduism as well. And number two, you can help by putting your questions, your comments, your thoughts into the chat box or the comment section on Facebook or YouTube, where you may be watching us live today. So without any further delay, let me just share the focus topic video for today. The topic is basically looking at colors. So we're looking at the caste system. What role color has with the caste system in Hinduism.
Really, one thing. There's a television company here in UK, London, which is run by black people. Nothing denigrating about black people. And they called me on the television program, said, Mr. Lakhani, we've got an issue with you. I said, what's your issue? He said, in Hinduism, they say black people are lower caste. Now, if that is true, that is highly divisive because we are black. And I told them, my friend, look at me, listen to me. If you go to South India today, the Brahmins in South India are not only black, they are jet black, they shine. So if they are Brahmins in South India are jet black, that means, is it anything to do with the color of the skin? It is nothing to do with the color of the skin. But unfortunately, sometimes people have this, especially with this kind of Anglo-Saxon, kind of drive of showing the white color as the superior color, and black and other color, brown are kind of secondary. That has still kind of been infused in all of us. So we still look at, white people. I see that sometimes I meet Hindus, and when they meet a white man,
because of climatic conditions, but they are 100% sure that the color of the car has got nothing to do with performance. So, what a bias people have at times. Huh?
You really, it's a very wonderful example. I use it myself.
So there we go. An interesting topic to explore. What role does color have in caste in Hinduism? So to take this conversation further, I would like to invite our resident panelist, Manish Bhai. Manish Bhai, welcome to today's call. And we also have Vijay Bhai on today's call. So always good to see you all. Manish Bhai, this is a very world we can't really fathom how ridiculous it sometimes it gets. But in years before, this was quite a problem, wasn't it?
True, Nishit Bhai. I think it's still a problem, especially many places in the world. It's still an issue. That's why we are covering it, actually. And I think even with Indian people, they tend to feel that white people are somehow more superior and they are more clever and this sort of thing. So I think the main issue is the racism, as the people tend to view different people, different colored people with a different, mindset. And it's a problem. Vijay Bhai, what's your take on it?
This is a very vast topic to cover, actually. But I think one thing we have to realize is I strongly believe that we have had a very strong colonial imprint into our minds. And that's really distorted our thinking, because I think in the video, Jaiba really hit the nail on the head by saying, actually, the idea of color is it's never been the case, because, Brahmins in South India are quite dark, actually. Or even in North India, there's no rule that they're all fair. I know the Brahmin, our Gaur, which is our Brahmin of our family, they've always been very dark. And I come from, I'm pretty sure I was okay, I'm not that fair, but I'm at least fairer than the Brahmin who runs in our family, tradition, right? So there's no rule like that. But I think there's a very, very, you be very careful. There's a very subtle aim to somehow impose the Aryan theory and somehow twist and turn it and torch and fit it somehow in India. It just doesn't work. The idea is that the Aryans who came were the superior, priestly class, and they're the Brahmin class, and push all the others to a lower caste. And that's all load of nonsense. Let's be honest about it, yes. But the idea that, there's a couple of things here at play. It's very interesting. Actually, there's a book I'm reading just now by somebody called, is it Deepak Sai Deepak, who's his book called India That Is Bharat. And he goes in very deeply into how this colonial mentality has affected India. And it's amazing. And what you see is this, that look at India, the old Gurukul system, tradition system, they're all gone. We follow Western system, Western law, Western parliament system. In effect, the West has won. Unfortunately, a lot of baggage that comes with it, the idea that fair are superior, has now been stuck in the Indian mind, which is really bizarre. Because in India, actually, I've seen for myself, most of the really clever people in India, they're all dark in color. Ramanuja, Abdul Kalam, none of them are fair, actually. They're very, very clever. They're fairly dark in complexion. So I don't know where the idea comes that the people who are fair are better in any way or superior. I think it's a remnant of, this colonial mentality that we have. Even now, I can't say for the past, before British came, maybe there was some little bias that, people who are the kingly class, they're fair. I know the Mughals, even in Pakistan, you'll be surprised. I was talking to one friend of mine from Pakistan. He was saying that even they're obsessed with fair skin. If you have got fair skin, that means you're a descendant of the Mongol Empire, because they invaded India, or Iraq, and all that, and the Mughal blood, basically Mongol in ancestry, and they feel they're superior because they're fairer, because they're stronger. But it just doesn't add up. But mind you, having said that, this color thing it's actually come up more, I think, personally, when it becomes the idea of colonization. Because at one time Europe was all white. They didn't have these issues. They had a class system, no doubt. They had the royals, the merchants, the landowners, the knights, and the serfs. So it's not new that they didn't have it. They had the caste system. They might not admit it, but they had it for a long time. It's only been 100 years that through education things have changed. But for a huge amount of time, even in the entire Christian era, 2000 years Christian era, there always been a class system in the West. It's a pity that they somehow want to hammer it and make it India's. It's not India's. It's been a world problem, right? But India now it's an issue. But really, color should not play any part. It doesn't make any part in your thinking in any way. I don't know why we are obsessed with that, but as Nishit Bhai mentioned in the video, whatever the color of the car, the performance is the same. It will make a difference. But there's a big push with this, right? But mind you, prejudice, color is but one of the prejudices. There are many other kind of prejudices, and I think humans have this inherent failing where we see things from prejudice against a different gender, prejudice against color. It's something that humans have to still evolve to kind of cross that. But by and large, I don't I don't agree that the Brahmins are fair, because my experience, personal experience, quite a few of them are dark as well. So anyway, that's all I can add that Manish Bhai.
Yes, also, in this north-south, there is a big north-south divide, and some people tend to, divide it by color, say all North Indian are all fair people, and all South Indian are, dark people.
Yeah.
So all the North Indian are Aryans, and all the South Indians are Dravidians. It's just like trying to create this division, which is kind of artificial, but there is a kind of always north-south debate going on, that who is clever, who is better, and all these things coming on. If you go to South India, they will say, oh, you North Indians, you do this and that. It's there, and it seems to be a problem. And we tend to suffer from this kind of biases, that we view people from what background they come from, what their skin color is. That tends to be some kind of ingrained prejudice in our mind, where we tend to make certain assumptions based on this sort of characteristics. And isn't that a problem, Vijay?
I think it's a problem primarily because it's really been hyped up for no reason at all. I mean, I'll give you an example. It is true that there might be a few more fair people in North India, but it's partly because we've had so many invasions. I mean, I'll give you my example. I mean, I like to be called I'm from the farming community. Yes? I like to be called a proper Hindu. But you'd be surprised, I have Greek blood in me. I have the thalassemia trait, right? It's passive. And that's from Greece. So the idea is that to say that, oh, we are superior, it doesn't, I mean, it's just whatever reason I have it, it doesn't make me any less Hindu. And same with the color. And the idea that some are clever than others. I mean, look, South India has given us some of the greatest Agama literature, vast collection of, literature, right? Some of the greatest scholars of, I know people like to say, oh, Tamil, but some of the greatest Sanskrit scholars are also from Tamil Nadu. Ramanuja is my, I follow the philosophy of Ramanuja. My tradition follows Ramanuja. I'm from North. Before Ramanuja's philosophy, he's a Tamil, a master of Sanskrit. So sometimes people, for their own benefit of own kind of push their own agenda, they make something which is a trivial issue into a massive issue. There is nothing to say that South Indians are less of a scholar than, say, Kashmiri, Brahmins. They're equally great in their own right. And that's the beauty about Hinduism. We have vast amount of greatness everywhere in India. That's what makes India great. So I think the problem comes at how do you use something to push your agenda. If you do that, like I know in South India, for example, or even North India, they push agenda, oh, I want to push Hindi. Why do you want to push Hindi? India has got so many beautiful languages. Or South India go, oh, we are different people, we are special language. I have a strong feeling there are different things that play. And one thing we have to be very careful about is quite often a small group of people drive the behavior of the majority. And that is something we have to be very careful about. There are quite strange agendas taking place. And there's also a lot of, sorry to say this, but quite a few missionary agendas as well, which helps in dividing India. I mean, that's how we know, classic example, right? The British ruled India primarily for that reason. They managed to divide people on all the little prejudice and hype them up. And people then get agitated and angry. And when it becomes a communal thing, then people say, oh yeah. And then you divide and conquer, simple as that. I think India needs to really fight that idea that there is nothing, some trivial things about the color of the skin or who is clever or not clever. Color does not decide how clever you are, let's face it, right? But it's an issue in India, I agree, because it really hyped up. I mean, it's so bad that even people I've been told that the fair whitening creams are one of the bestseller creams, beauty products in India. It's sad that this is the case. It's like I got 3 children. One is very fair. One is, of a dark complexion. And just one family, it's in no way makes any difference, who you are. I think we have to cross that barrier. And I think we have started in schools and take this on and ingrain people's mind that actually color of the skin does not decide your character. And that's something we have to aim for.
Yeah. Very true, Vijay, by what you mentioned, that one of the most popular cream is this Fair and Lovely, and
I don't know the name, but yes.
and it just goes to show that in our mindset we tend to think fair people are more beautiful, and even the way the gods are depicted, Krishna, the name itself means the dark one. Syam is called Syam as well.
Yes, yes.
And sometimes when you see Krishna's photo, is depicted blue or sometimes very fair. If somebody's Hindi serials, you will see Krishna is very fair. Yeah. And is it good? And Sarmain has asked, why are some of these deities depicted as blue or black? And sometimes they are actually wrongly depicted white as well. Is that good, Vijay Bhai?
No, I think the thing is, actually, from what I know, the Shyam color actually is got a spiritual side. It's not really blue as such. From what I hear, it's like some people say like the lotus, blue lotus color. It's got divine, it's seen as the symbol of infinity. The blue color we have is infinity, like the sky. Yeah, and it's got very spiritual significance, that color apparently. So showing gods that one thing is show them different, because God, if you look like fair like us, then they become like humans, right? You don't show them a little bit different. So Shyam has got a special difference because it's the idea of infinite, eternal. That God is eternal, infinite. So in essence, Shyam color is better. So of course, Shyam also can mean not dark skin, right? In that sense, yeah. So it's seen as something different in that sense. But I'm not sure there is any other reason other than that for depicting them as Shyam. But something else to mention as well, some of the best murtis of God in India are made from black granite stone. They last for eternity. Strong, black stone. And I've been to some temples in India. It's quite interesting that you see image of Krishna in dark stone, black stone, literally black, and Radha is in white stone or the marble stone. It looks really interesting, very, very colorful kind of mixture. But yeah, gods, if themselves are dark, not of a less fair complexion. I don't know why humans are complaining, to be honest. Yeah. So they just feel the color of blue in that sense. So that's all I can add to that. But we should take an example from that. If they are seen as if gods can be dark, why can't humans be dark? Yeah? I have a strong feeling. My aim is that there's a lot of colonial baggage we still carry. I don't have any history of India as how it's in the previous time, but I'm pretty sure that even in the ancient times in India, I'm talking about 1,000 years ago, when all these conquerors come into India, which are fairer, become lighter, colder climates, I'm pretty sure people see them as, oh, we want to be like them. Don't know why, but we are where we are, yes. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Vijay Bhai, Rahul saying you're wearing blue color. So that's quite interesting.
Yes, I am. So, yeah, indeed. So, yeah.
We have one question from Oliman. Just lost the question. So yeah, someone was asking, how did this division by color came about? Was it caused by outsiders or was it born in India? For example, did the false European Aryan theory help spread this skin problem?
So I think there have been prejudices, to be fair, of all kinds for a long time. I wouldn't say that it's only British, but of course the British were all fair. And they kind of exacerbated the problem. And Aryan theory actually made it worse. It says that Aryan, if you look in the books by Max Muller, Aryan, the fair-skinned, Aryan conquerors brought the religion of Hinduism to India. India was full of primitive tribal people. They came with Hinduism. Now that just doesn't add up because they're supposed to come from Central Asia. But Central Asia, there is no civilization in Central Asia to date. Like if you look at the Cossacks of Central Asia, some of the hardiest people, horse riders, no doubt, horse riders, pastoral people. But they never cities the size of Mohenjo-daro or Harappa, 100,000. They didn't have them. To write literature, to build scriptures, you need huge civilizations. They didn't exist. So how could they have given us Sanskrit? How could they have given religion? It just doesn't add up. This has been rammed for such a long time. It's ironic that it's very interesting that one of India's so-called famous historians, Romila Thapar, She had been pushing, Aryan invasion theory was so long. It was only last 10 years she said, oh, by the way, it's not Aryan invasion anymore. It's called now Aryan migration. But there's no evidence they came on horses with swords to kill people. So now it's become migration theory. Now everybody accepts there is no Aryan invasion theory. Even the scholars who are really pro-Aryan invasion, they now call it, oh, by the way, it was an Aryan migration. See, now they're changing. And eventually, I think that'll even go, right? So the thing is this, it's all a way, it's all many ways. If you want to subdue a people, you have to make them feel inferior. And that's the biggest how you conquer people, right? It's not purely a game of physical, fight. It's a mental fight. And I think that's something Indians have to really introspect and see, why do we have these things? I mean, India is a diverse country, vast country, right? With all kinds of people, all kinds of, climates. To ingrain this and hype up these differences is really sad. I mean, why do we do this? I guess it's one of those things which your eye can physically see. It's obvious, I'm fair, I'm dark, right? And I'm tall and fair, so I must be superior. Maybe the brain may have nothing in that, but that's another question, right? But I think something we have to realize that we have to get rid of this and not hype up this simple. We're all different and not hype these differences up, yeah? We have to focus on. Hi, Sita. Sita, anything to add on this prejudice color thing?
Sorry, I've just joined, so I'm not really sure what you've discussed.
So we're discussing the idea that how in India people play up on the color of the skin and use that to kind of decide who is superior, inferior. And decide. By the way, you look really beautiful in the sari, whatever you're wearing.
Sorry, thank you.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, I completely agree at the moment, because I feel like currently we've got a very sort of, in a way, colonial attitude. Like, we love the idea that everything has to be pale and white. And I know Vijay Bhai has mentioned previously about, like skin whitening creams, which is terrible, and dark is perceived to be bad. And it's not true. It's terrible, because everyone is beautiful regardless of the color of their skin. And we have to remember, especially from the Hindu philosophy perspective, that everyone is divine, everyone is spirit. So just let the beauty shine through. That's already inside you.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Very well put, Sita Ben. Everyone is divine, and we should treat everyone equally, and not look at through this color bias or this kind of ingrained, problems due to, British rule. So I think we should be aware of these problems, and then once we are aware, we can do something about it. Next question is, if everyone came out from Africa, that is the now theory, is that the human beings started, the Homo sapiens, they started from Africa and moved everywhere in the world. And they were dark before, and then they become lighter. Vijay Bhai, do you skin when they reached Europe? Do you have any ideas on how this different color people came about, if we all started from Africa?
So I think personally, this is my view, and actually I've read a very interesting book called Out of Eden from somebody called Stefan Oppenheimer, and primarily it mentions that as people moved north, because of less sun, the white fair skin actually helped them in terms of health reasons. Like, vitamin D is a very big problem for Indians, as you know, in Europe. You don't get enough vitamin because of lack of sun. Whereas fair people get much more easily absorbed. I mean, even if you look at the Eskimos, for example, they are much more, they store the fat on the skin. Indians store in their veins, which is the problem, right? So by and large, your climatic conditions makes you evolve, which is fair enough, right? If you're going to be in a very hot place, you want to have a darker skin because of more sun, and you don't need that kind of fair skin. If you go north, as you go further, I mean, Russians are really so fair. You wonder, I mean, if you go to Sweden, where I used to working for a long time, they're very, very fair people, and they need to have that fair skin to absorb enough, rays or whatever. So by and large, I think the geography, you adapt to that area, and that kind of helps you. I mean, it's quite normal. I think people kind of hype that up. I'll give you an example. In the UK, when you're 40, you compulsory have to go for diabetes test if you're Indian. Not for the white, Indians have to go compulsory diabetes. And I've been there every year. Okay, so far. Why? Because we don't burn enough sugar. In India, there's so much heat, we burn the sugar. Here, we eat the sugar, we don't burn it. So there are differences. We have to accept that there are some differences because you've got different climates. So there can be maybe differences. You can't. So, and by the way, evolution actually matters on your environment. Decides evolution as well. That's how evolution works. So when Lucy came out of Africa about 100,000 years ago, there was most of the branches which actually went to Europe actually initially died out. You'd be surprised. It's from India they went back up again. So India went all the way to Indonesia. Then again India had this. Then there was a big, the big Mount Toba explosion apparently 6,000 years ago. Then again from Indonesia people came back to India. So India is a cradle in that sense. After leaving Africa, India is a cradle. People moving up and down from India and all the way up to the Japan, China, and across Alaska to South America and North America. The Indians, they all went through India. So India has been a mixture of all kinds of people moving up and down. But by and large, I think as you move, your climate decides how you evolve. I mean, it's very subtle differences, but they are there because of climate. But that should decide who you are, really. Yeah. Sita?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, every sort of color of skin is suited to the climate that of the origin. So darker skin is better suited to sort of coping with heavy sunshine, and lighter skin is less able to do that. And I think there's also this thing about lighter skin, it wrinkles easier than darker skin as well. So every kind of skin type is different depending on, the sort of environment and the genes, and there's so many different factors involved. But as we've already mentioned, this idea of skin tone should not be something to be used to discriminate against anybody. And it's terrible that humanity does this kind of classifying and categorizing people into different groups and putting them higher or lower than other groups, which is a terrible human failing. So it's wonderful that the world is evolving. The human mindset is changing to the point where, we are understanding that we were flawed. We made mistakes over hundreds of years, discriminating on the basis of skin color. But now things are getting much better. It's a much more egalitarian way of living, which is beautiful. Although, maybe in the sort of backwaters, people are still like, oh, they've got dark skin and this isn't right. But at least people are sort of aware and things are moving slowly. It takes a while for the mindset to change, but hopefully we're going in the right direction.
Yes, it is changing, and it's good to see it change. Charmaine saying, my maternal father was British, and my mother's side of family is very fair. And the girls always got good proposals because of this. The family actually asked for fair girls. And this is a very fair comment that this does happen, especially in India. The fair girls would get a lot more proposals than the darker skinned girls. And anything to add on that, Sita Ben, what to say about this mindset?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting. I remember reading a while ago that if you have lighter skin, it means that you are wealthier because you stay indoors more and you're not out there doing hard labor in the fields and in the roads and that kind of thing. So you're actually more wealthy if you have lighter skin. So maybe that kind of psychological attachment is there in the mindset that, if you have lighter skin, you are wealthier. So maybe more desirable as a spouse, maybe that was the kind of thinking. If you have darker skin, you're more likely to be out there slogging away in the fields or as a farmer or whatever it was. So yeah, there is that mindset as well as this whole idea that, lighter is better because of this whole colonial mindset, which it takes a long time for it to kind of come out of the human psyche. And it's not even just the type of skin tone. Like we all have sort of adopted more sort of English ways of doing things. We were speaking English right now. We wear English clothes, we eat English food. So that kind of mindset is always there. But I mean, yeah, it's one of those things that we have to evolve and learn from. But I found that very interesting that, it kind of denotes your socioeconomic status, the level of skin tone that you have. Vijay Pai, any thoughts on that?
What I can add is I had the same experience, ironically, when I was, before I got married. And they would say, oh, she is fair, she is not fair. And I actually found it very bizarre, to be honest, because my wife, I'll be honest with you, is dark. And chose purposely because she has brains more than color, So, but the thing is this, right? I had the same issue. You'd be surprised. I had one of my aunts had the nerve to say that because she was from Portugal, right? And when she comes here, she'll become fair. I didn't even ask the question, but she gave an answer anyway. So, but it's really sad that people actually tend to measure somebody. But at least I was very sure in my mind. I was somebody whose head is good on straight rather than the color of the skin, So, but there you go. Yeah, I mean, just all I can add to that.
Oh, interesting personal story there, Vijay Bhai. Yes, so there you go. I think we should be looking at overall person, not just their skin color, and we should be looking at more as how well you get on with each other before deciding on partners. So that's more important, I feel, than skin color. Okay, we take Ali Sebastian saying in 1914, half of my family was in Indian and from Calcutta. I was born white British in the UK. The idea of dividing people based on where they are from is ridiculous. It's what in your heart that matters. Completely agree with you there, Ali Sebastian. She's saying also I have French heritage, so real mix. I've always believed if everyone getting on together, regardless of class, race. Agree with you completely. And as we all came out of Africa, the origin is from out of Africa. If you look at the genetic studies of Homo sapiens, we all came from the same origin of Africa, and genetically we are very similar. It's just the different skin colors doesn't make much difference. It's who we truly are, and there shouldn't be a caste-based or color-based prejudice, and there should be more fairer society. We take the next question. Difference between Atman and Jivatma. What does take rebirth? So yes, we move on from this topic of skin tone and move on to a question from Krishna Javar. He's saying, what is the difference between Atman and Jivatman? And what is born? What is reincarnating or taking rebirth? Vijay?
I think this is covered a couple of times, but yes, the key thing is that the Atman is the thing that doesn't change, is a constant basically. It's something that you have realized. It's a Jiva Atman on top, which has the characteristics on the Atman, which is what actually is reborn all the time. The Jiva Atman is what moves. The day you find out the Atman, that you're the true Atman, that extra baggage drops out, you become the true Atman. So the smaller the Atman is far more powerful than the bigger Jiva Atman. So that's the main difference. So you actually, as you're born again and again, it's a Jivatman that actually goes across. Basically, Atman covered with the characteristics. That's the main thing to remember. And the Atman is always free because Atman is not tied by space, time, and causation. It just feels it is. I mean, as long as you feel that, you're going to be seen as Jivatman. Sita Ben?
Yeah, and I think you've covered it amazingly. It reminds me a little bit of one of the dad's videos, and he was talking about how really, everything that we sort of see and experience and think we are is an appearance. And he used the example of, if you go to a river and you go to the river and you call it a river, but actually when you look closely at the river, it's all a flux. It's never the same particles of water that you see. They're always sort of in a flux. They're always in a movement. And that's kind of what I guess like Jivatman is like, it's a flux. It's not who we actually are. That permanent, beautiful sun is shining at the top, but at the crest of every wave is the tiny little Jivatman moving around, moving from life to life, thinking that it's got all these qualities and a personality and all of that. But really, it's when we look deeper within that we see that constant, that Atman, which is always sort of shining out. So that's, I guess, the kind of difference. And it's a bit similar to Buddhist thinking that this idea of Jivatman is, in a way, it's an appearance because, that's not who you truly, truly are. Who you truly are is the glorious sun, the glorious spirit.
Wonderful way to put it, Sita Ben. Next question from Mad Dog. He's asking, my question to you guys is, how can you be sure what is going to happen after your souls, after you die? How can we be sure, Sitawin?
We can't really, because we live in a world where empirical evidence means everything. And to be able to get empirical evidence for something that's essentially metaphysical is almost impossible. But as sort of the Indic traditions believe that, you know, that's not the end of you. Once you die, that's not the end. It's like a comma rather than a full stop. That was what Dad always said. So we move from this body, which has become old or diseased, and we get a fresh body. We start again, but hopefully not in the way of, you know, starting completely from scratch, because hopefully the work that we have done in our present life will contribute to developing a good character in our future lives. So we just move from life to life until eventually, you know, you start thinking that everything that we experience in the world, you start realizing that you do get pain and suffering with everything that you experience in life. Even my Dad's classic example, you know, you have a slice of chocolate cake and it's very sweet to start with, but after a while it becomes too much. You know, if you have a whole cake to yourself, you'll feel sick. So it's that kind of thinking that, you know, from life to life, we start learning that, you know, we can't get eternal happiness from anything from the external world. It's always a temporary sort of fizz. So the whole aim is for us to realize within ourselves that, hang on, something doesn't seem to be right here. Let me look for something deeper. And that's the start of your spiritual journey. It's one of those things that you can't impose on anybody or wag your finger at anybody saying you must become spiritual. It has to come from within you. And once you've had enough hard knocks in life, you might start realizing that, hang on, I should look for some deeper resolution to the human condition. And that's what essentially what Buddhism was all about. I'm mentioning Buddhism a lot today. That's what Buddhism is all about, trying to find a resolution to the human condition. We move from life to life, and it seems fun to start with, but then, you know, you start seeing the suffering and the pain that comes alongside that pleasure. So you have to rise above both and try and find that state of bliss, which we called Anand. And that's when you truly become enlightened, and you don't need to come back again and again through this whole cycle of pleasure and pain. Vijay bhai?
Yeah, I think I agree with Sita. I mean, you can never say 100% because obviously, if you use empirical evidence, it's not easy to see that what happens to you. But I think, as by and large, the experience we have from the rishis, all the information we have, shows that actually you move from from a life to life. Even though, you know, the great work of this famous, I forgot his name now, who did work on reincarnation.
Ian Stevenson.
Ian Stevenson, yeah. Right? He's done a lot of work, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't accept his work because it's been peer reviewed by 2 or 3 others. But it's very, very strong, compelling evidence that he's done about, you know, the idea of reincarnation. So you have a lot of evidence in that sense, but it's very hard to get empirical physical, something metaphysical. To get a physical proof, it's not that easy to find. But by and large, I think, as Sita mentioned, you yourself will feel that I have to do something, right? And I have to progress. And that is what will drive your journey more than anything else. Yeah. That's all I can add to that. Yeah.
Yep, agree with you, Vijay bhai. So yes, as Vijay bhai said, there is evidence there, and also the reincarnation research is continued. So currently, Jim Tucker at the University of Virginia is continuing research on, and they are still investigating cases. They are still proving reincarnation cases even now. So now there is evidence of reincarnation. So that's what you can be sure about, and you can look at it and make up your own mind. I'll ask Nisit bhai for the break, please.
Fabulous. So what a wonderful session we've been having so far. I mean, we've had some really juicy questions. This is a really divisive, emotive topic. And I'm sure you ask many young girls in India who bear the brunt of not being a certain color and how much effort and hassle they have to go through. And sometimes society holds them, you know, at fault for something that they're just simply born with. It makes no difference in how they are as a person, but it does impact their emotional state and their, you know, the way they interact with people, because people have these kind of heavy prejudices against them. So anyway, we moved on from the topic. What I'd like to do is share a couple of things with you all. So as you know, we are growing as a channel on YouTube. When I started working on the channel with the team here, we had about 1,250 videos. And together with the whole team here and Jaybai's amazing, never-ending resource of videos from I don't know how many years of work he's put in, we are still slowly releasing videos on a very regular basis. So if you haven't subscribed and you haven't clicked on the bell icon, you're missing out on the latest goodies which we drop every week. So just to celebrate a milestone we reached this week, which is to reach 4,000 videos on the channel. So a really good an achievement. We've more than tripled where we were. And also that has led to the views increasing. So we are very close to the 10 million mark, which I've been aiming for as a channel. And we also crossed 107,000 subscribers. Just it feels like recently we were waiting on the 100,000 subscriber mark. We've now passed it comfortably. And it's all down thanks to you, the viewers, who've been supporting us, who've been really great with giving us the questions and also sharing our content online. Now, the other resource I'd like to share with you is our Basics of Hinduism course. We did say that I was aiming for 8,000. We've crossed the 8,000 now, so I'm a very greedy person, never satisfied. So my next target is 10,000. And again, I would just reach out to you all. If you haven't signed up for the course, please do it. It's an amazing little introduction to the basics of Hinduism. We do have a second course, which is Advanced Hinduism. This is mainly geared for students for the GCSE Hinduism exam. And we have had some really good results from those exams as well. So if you're a student anywhere around the world who's able to sit for these exams, then I would recommend you sign up for this course. It is free of charge. And then later on, you can get in touch with us. We can plug you into the Sunday live calls, which happen on Zoom with Vijay Bhai and his team. And the results they've had are some amazing ones. I remember a young student who was 13-year-old a couple of years back called Haley Patel, who ended up having the highest score in the world for these exams. So you would be in the right place with the Vijay Bhai if you're learning Hinduism for GCSE. The last resource we have is our website, which is hindu-academy.com. And if you are new to Hinduism and you'd like to download the PDF ebooks, which were co-written by Sitaben and Jaybhai, they were meant for the school curriculum, but I think now the curriculum's changed somewhat, but the information still remains relevant as ever. So please do feel free to download the ebooks. They are free of charge, and they will give you a lot of information on the basics of Hinduism as well. So with that, I'll carry on with the rest of the conversation. We have another 15, 20 minutes left. About 15 minutes. And Manish Bhai, back to you again.
Thank you, Nishat Bhai. We take the next question from Review TV. He's asking, I have a very important question. What is the difference between Purana, Upanishad, Vedas, and other Shastras? Vijay Bhai?
It's
between Puranas, Upanishads, Vedas, and other Shastras.
Hinduism is a library of Shastras, so there's so many. But by and large, I think we can say that the Vedas are seen as the Shruti scriptures, which are basically divine truths heard in deep meditation. And the divine truths about what? By and large, truths about who you are, your nature, the nature of reality, and questions like that. So the Vedas in this are seen as of higher authority. In this Shruti category, Shruti comes from the word Shrutva, which means having heard divine truths, basically. And then your Smriti scriptures, which are like in remembrance of, and they come in the other category. So everything else kind of fits in that category. Even the Gita, technically, although it's like Shruti-like, because it makes the teachings of the Upanishads practical, it's seen as Smriti. But of course, there's a big difference because the Puranas are seen as legendary stories. Then you have the Itihas, which is the Mahabharata and Ramayana, another category. Then you have a kind of law books, Manu Smriti, Parasa Smriti, Yagnavalkya Smriti, all kinds of Smriti books. So you have these kind of different categories. On top of that, you also got other larger sub books like, Tirukural, the Agama literature. So it's a vast literature. But I think by and large, you can divide them into two main groups. The Shruti, which is divine experiences and how to achieve them, and then the Smriti scriptures, which is all the other scriptures. But yeah, it's a very big topic. I think you have to attend this. Nishit Bhai said, Hinduism class, to go far deeper into look, it's about 4 or 5 lectures on this topic. Yeah, Sita, man.
And I think you've covered it amazingly. I think the important thing to remember is you should know which category the scripture that you're looking at falls into. Is it a man-made scripture or is it a revealed scripture, essentially? Is it a Shruti or a Smriti? Because the trap that a lot of people fall into is they think that a lot of the stories and mythology, they think of it as being literally true, whereas actually that's a man-made scripture. It's a colorful story to help attract us towards the idea of God and spirit. And it should not be taken as literally true, because if you do, and you go out there in the world and you try and justify that to people who are not Hindu, they think, what kind of a silly religion is this? So you have to make sure that you understand what the source is of the scripture that you're looking at. And the important thing to remember is that, after you've sort of enjoyed the colorful stories as a child and it's drawn you towards the idea of religion and spirit, you should then move on and sort of graduate further and look at the philosophical depth of Hinduism, because you're really missing a beautiful heart of Hinduism if you don't look at those scriptures talking about the divinity of everything. Everyone is sparkling with divinity, and that's a real basis for ethics and morality. And if you understand the reasoning behind it, why we should be good, rather than, a God sort of watching over you from the heavens, it's because you are God, and everyone around you is also God. And that's the reason why you should help your fellow human beings. So if you understand the depth, then that's actually a revealed scripture. This is what, the enlightened individuals have discovered, and understand that's a true sort of authority of Hinduism, then you're on safe ground and you enjoy stories for what they are, but don't take them to be literally true.
Full answer, Sita Ben. We take the next question from Harsh Gupta. He's saying, why do Arya Samaj don't follow the Puranas? Now, the story of Arya Samaj is, it was started by Maharshi Dayanand Saraswati, who saw some rats running around, Murti of Ganpati, and he eating the prasad, and he said, what's going on? And after that, he stopped believing in the worshipping of Murti Puja, basically. And then he studied Vedas, and he said, oh, there's not much of Murti Puja in Vedas. And so he based Arya Samaj on that basis, on Vedas. So Harsh Gupta question is, why do Arya Samaj don't follow the Purana? Is that okay, do not follow Puranas? Sita Ben.
Yes, of course it is. That's the wonderful thing about Hinduism, is we're not fixated on scriptures and books like that. So if that part of it doesn't appeal to you, especially because that's considered to
We seem to have lost Sita Ben temporarily. I think Vijay Bhai, do you want to come on that, please?
Yeah, sure. I think the thing is, I agree with Sita that actually it's okay, because by and large, some scriptures are more important to some particular sectarian movements within Hindus than others. Like I know that, for example, in the Vaishnava faith, they don't like to accept the Shankara's Vivek Chudamani. They won't read that. The Shankara would emphasize more on Vivek. So it's a lot of emphasis, because Hinduism is pluralistic in nature. So if, for example, Dayanand Saraswati, for his own understanding, believes, oh, by the way, for me, it doesn't make sense, we should only have what you call the revealed scripture as the true scripture. Don't forget, don't only reject the Puranas, reject all the other books. Even the Gita, everything is purely only the Ved. The Vedas is only what they follow, because they believe that's the true revealed kind of scriptures, which is fine. That's their wish, and then I think we should respect that. That's what Hinduism is about, the diversity, yeah? So, yeah. That's okay.
Wonderful answer, Vijay Bhai. We take the next question from Saurabh Jadhav. He's saying, is Prophet Muhammad mentioned in Vedas, Upanishads? Many Muslim clerics, including Zakir Naik, are stating that he's mentioned in our books. What's your take on it?
Okay, I've done some reading on this. Actually, I'll quote Vivekanand. Somebody came to Vivekanand once and said, by the way, there's a Upanishad called Allah Upanishad. And where did that come from? There's no Allah Upanishad, right? But the thing is, look, because Hinduism is so broad and vast, right? People are going to make things up and put it in and some to push their own agendas. If they really believe that the woman's name is in the Upanishads, then why only take that particular part and work only on that? Why not take the whole Upanishad? If they believe Upanishad is divine and they've given the name of Prophet Muhammad talking about his coming, then accept everything else in the Upanishad. But they won't do that. They will do selective picking of scriptures. It's something Jay has mentioned so many times. People do that. They take one selective look. Even Hinduism says that, yes. Oh, but they accept everything else. Oh, no, we don't accept anything else. That's hypocritical. But I know there have been some Upanishads have come up recently, I mean 200-300 years ago, which are not really Upanishads in that sense. But they get away, so it's one of the many others we know. But I don't think that's a genuine Upanishad. So I think you can, because I bet you, if I look very closely, I might even find a verse on myself. Like Vijay Hirani, Vijay is a god, so I can pick it up and say, look, yeah, I can do that. But that doesn't mean anything. So I think you have to take the whole thing into context, analyze it, and then use your head to decide, does it make sense to you, and then accept it. But by and large, I don't think that is really the path to go. I know people do that, but that's not how Hinduism works. Yeah, we experiential. We don't really focus on scriptures like that. See that, man?
Oh yeah, sorry, I cut out before. Yeah, so sorry, what I was saying is yeah, basically we are a spiritual democracy. We do encourage different ways of making spiritual progress, and you choose the path that suits you the most.
That's very well put, Sitaben. We take the next question. So Krishna Jawar had a follow-up question regarding that Atma and Jivatma. Saying, so does it mean that there can be Jivatma without body? Sitaben?
Yes, yes, they can, because as you sort of transmigrate from one body to another, that's your character, that's your Jivatman sort of coming along with you into the next body. And there's a beautiful story about, how the only thing that comes with you from life to life is not your property, your possession, not your family or your friends. It's essentially your character. So that's why belief in reincarnation really sort of focuses our attention on chiseling a good character for ourselves, because that's essentially like your Jivatman, your character, the mind-body sort of the mind complex that you've developed, and that's the thing that transmigrates with you from life to life. Vijay Bhai?
I think Sita covered it pretty well. Yeah, there's not much to add on that. Yeah.
We take the next question from Saswat Samarid Sinha, saying, sir, please accept my respectful obeisance. Our respectful obeisance to you as well. Would you please enlighten us about the significance of and utility of tilak in Dharma? Vijay Bhai?
Okay, I'm not sure more than, all I would by and large say that tilak has always been part of Indian traditions. And by and large, it shows devotion to your particular tradition or to your particular faith. It's mark of devotion more than anything else, devotion to God. And as part of a discipline, because you do it every day at every time on your forearms, on the chest, on the head, if you do it all the time as a discipline, it actually helps you in your kind of also your spiritual progress. I mean, I love the tilaks of Ramanuja. They're the best. Have you seen the really big ones here? I personally love that. When I see that, I think it looks very spiritual personally. I don't do tilak much. I do once in a while in the temple. Mainly I do with chandan tilak, or if I go somewhere, some puja or something. But by and large, it's mark of devotion. I think that's the beauty of Hinduism. They give so many diverse tilak. Like Shiva, the ash one, 3 ash lines of ash here, represent the 3 gunas. Then you have like the ones we do in Swaminarayan, we do red one, we do a particular sun. So there's so many tilaks. So I think by and large, it's devotion to your particular movement and reminds you of God as well. Because if you tilak all the time, it reminds you of God. I'll give you an interesting story. When I was growing up in Kenya, quite often the police would stop us. And if they saw a tilak on your forehead, they said, no, this person is spiritual and he can't do any wrong. They let him go. Yeah. So in Swahili, they say, Huyuni Mutu ya Mungu means a person of God. Don't touch him, So it helps you in that sense as well. Sita.
Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. It really does sort of define your identity. And it's, the other thing to really remember is that the tilak is usually like in between, like on your forehead, in between your eyebrows. And that's considered to be a very important point, because you should focus on that when you meditate, because that's considered to be a very special point in the human body. And that's why we like to mark it, to remind ourselves the importance of that. I'm wearing a bindi today. Mark the importance of that when you meditate. So that's another sort of angle to it. And, as Vijay Bhai was saying, a round dot sort of usually is for Mother Goddess. You get the 3 lines, horizontal lines for Shiva. So it also demonstrates your allegiance to which sort of aspect of Hinduism appeals to you.
Wonderful answer, Sita Ben, Vijay Bhai. We're running out of time, nearly 2 minutes to 3 o'clock. So we'll take a couple of questions and draw this to close. So Mikim has asked a question. Do you have to choose a specific sect, or can you worship more than one deva? But if you worship more than one god, are you not just worshipping the same god? Sita Ben?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. You can pick and choose whichever path is best for you, but you also have to balance it with not becoming too scattered as well. So that's why when you go to the shrine of any Hindu home, a lot of the time you'll find a huge diversity. You'll find Mother Goddess next to, Ram and Krishna and Shiva, and they're all sat there together, and you think, oh, what's going on here? This is so confusing. But it's because, maybe the grandmother loves the Mother Goddess, maybe the son loves Ganesh or whatever, and everyone just sits together nicely as a happy family. And that's the wonderful thing about Hinduism. You don't get people fighting within families that, oh, my one is better and my one is better. They just sit alongside each other on the temple, which is beautiful. But yes, so we do agree you can use whichever pathway is best for you, but then focus on that path. Choose one which suits your temperament, your requirements, because if you get too scattered as well, then you're not really going to get anywhere. So that's why it's incredibly important to be able to appreciate the diversity, but then choose what your heart tells you is the right way for you. Vijay Bhai?
I think Sita, you've got it brilliantly. I mean, I remember Jay Bhai saying the same thing, that it's not that the idea of everything goes. It doesn't work like that, because otherwise you'll be nowhere. If you try and go everywhere, you get nowhere. So I think you have to choose your own temperament and choose your own character. If you like Shiva, you like the idea of God as a principle, the idea of Shiva's, abilities of easy to please. There's so many things you can find in different deities, or something like the idea of strength, Durga. So pick your characters right and try and focus on that, and use what strengths you have and focus on that path. So that's what I can add to that. Yeah.
Last question for today: is Hinduism only for India? Question by Lokesh. Vijay Bhai?
Well, India was not defined by Indians themselves. It was name given by invaders anyway. So India is never, Hinduism is never built for India. I mean, mind you, that's an interesting part, because Hinduism means Sanatana Dharma, right? Sanatana Dharma means universal. We never call it Hinduism. It's because they want to give us geographical location, they gave the name Hinduism. So Hinduism is no part of India. It's actually universal. It's just a question of how it spreads, and hopefully peacefully, and people pick up the unique ideas of Hinduism. Sita, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma is specialist at. We love the idea that there is diversity in different views, and it doesn't even have to be within the Hindu fold. It can be other religions, it can be no religion at all. That's how vast it is, that's how beautiful it is. And that's a wonderful quality of Hinduism that we wish to share with the world. Whoever wants to take up any of the ideas, make them your own, and you don't even have to say it's copyright from Hinduism. Just take up those ideas, and that's the beauty of these teachings.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Where has the time gone? We're at 1 minute past 3, and so that's the end of the session for this week. As always, it's been wonderful to have you all. We love interacting with you. We've got so many questions and comments and thoughts from you all. We haven't even finished asking all the questions on this week, so we'll probably run it over on next week's session or something like that. But please do help us, share the broadcast. Charmaine's been lovely. She's just given a suggestion that if every one person watching the broadcast, if they just share it with 1 or 2 other people, it would help us double the audience. So if you could all please help us just share with 1 or 2 other person, that would be really, really wonderful. Now, to close the session for today, I would like to share a quote quote from Swami Vivekananda. And remember, the quote from Swami Vivekananda goes, "You can do anything and everything." So I hope that is something that will inspire you. Remember, there should be no bias with color, etc. You can do anything that you put your mind to. And with that, I'd like to just say, thank you to the team here. Let me just bear with me one moment. And I seem to have some sort of a technical glitch, but this is the end of the session. Thanks as always, Vijay Bhai, Manish Bhai, and Sita Ben. And we will look forward to seeing everybody next week on Saturday, 2:00 time as usual. Bye-bye for now. Have a great week ahead.
Is it closed now, Nishit Bhai?
No, one moment. So my Zoom on the other end is giving me trouble. As always, it always gives me trouble.
Is it okay? Yeah.
Live stream hasn't stopped.
It hasn't. Now, who's the current host?
Maybe you are on the other one, I think.
Okay, I am now the host.